What's up, guys? Welcome to Season 2, Episode 9 of the Tyde podcast. My name is Adrian.
I'm Steve. And
we are recording from Tyde Industrial Technology Solutions in California, aka Tyde Tower, with our good buddy, Dan the Man.
Dan is here. Speak up, Dan. Hi.
Hey, what's up?
Dan was with us on Bro Weekend.
Right?
It's an interesting weekend.
Interesting weekend.
So how you doing, Dan?
I'm doing good. How are you guys?
Good. I actually just got back from Jiu Jitsu. A buddy of mine and I were just watching some techniques and drilling some leg stuff. Some
Nice.
pretty gnarly shit. My brain is still kind of fried from trying to figure out what the hell that they were doing, like on the videos.
Leg locks or
It's really like high level, like leg entry stuff.
like Paul Harris type shit?
Yeah. It's John Donaher, who's like one of the head coaches at Renzo Gracie's school in Manhattan, and they're like pretty much like the premier like leg lock guys in jiu-jitsu. And my gym is actually an affiliate of Renzo's. So my buddy and I were just watching some stuff and trying to drill it. It was some pretty wild shit, like some I think it was called Mantis Guard. And it's an offshoot of De La Hiva, which is actually what we were doing when we were in at Atos, that
Right.
guard.
Yeah, I remember that one.
Yep.
So it's an offshoot of that where you actually reach underneath their leg and wrap around their leg with your arm and actually grab onto your own leg. So it's like an even more locked down version of that De La Hiva. And then it gets into some like X guard shit and like reverse X guard into this sweep, and like you end up in like some crazy leg lock position. It was we were able to get like maybe 90% of the way there, and then just like the last part, like I hit it I think once, and then after that we couldn't figure out how to repeat it. It's just it's too high level. I think I'm gonna have to spend a lot of time just like rewatching the video and just seeing like the last part. It seems so simple. He switches his feet, but I still don't understand how the leg passes over. He makes it look so smooth, but it's very hard to repeat. So I'm definitely gonna have to spend some time watching that.
Yeah, I was confused enough with the De La Hiva guard. Did you say this is called the Mantis guard?
Mantis Guard.
Yeah. So
Okay.
yeah.
Initially, I thought you said Mantits guard. That'd be a complete.
I heard man-tits also.
Okay.
Definitely heard man-tit.
Mantis, like a praying mantis.
Got it.
Oh, man.
That sounds a lot more ninja-like.
Yeah, definitely.
Uh,
So, what's been happening this week? Fucking Joker trailer.
Dude, I love that trailer.
That does look good.
Holy crap.
Since
Yeah,
when did comic book movies become Oscar bait movies?
Dude, like, yeah, if the rest of the movie holds up, I don't see how he doesn't win an Oscar.
Dude, Yvette, it wasn't as sold on it as I am, but I think it's cool. I mean, he's almost like a Cesar Romero
Yeah.
Joker look, but he's got like that Heath Ledger vibe,
Yeah, totally.
kind of, sorta. It looks cool,
It definitely does.
but
And it kind of seems like they're changing up like his origin. Well, I mean, really, I think the only true origin we got of his was in like the redhead stuff.
yeah.
You see him fall into the vat.
But everything up
But,
until that point, even the Joker himself said that he's not sure like who he is, or
Yeah.
how much of it is just bullshit.
So it seems like what they're doing is they're having like society just push him constantly until he finally snaps.
Which was very close to a even Killing Joke. That was a bit of a theme there also.
Yeah, so I could definitely see it like loosely being around that.
And then gonna see Shazam this weekend. Got
Oh,
tickets to
nice.
Infinity War. Or I'm sorry, Endgame. We're going to Sinopolis. There's a 56-hour movie marathon at the El Cap, and I just can't do it because last time we did a marathon, the shit was not well put together. And we were promised Chris Hardwick, and we did not get Chris Hardwick. But we did get Jessica Chobot. She's fucking gorgeous.
Not even Chris Hardwick.
Yeah.
That's funny.
It's just an intern wearing a dress.
Yeah. We want crunchy. We want crunchy. Oh, man.
That's what it's like. It's like we were promised Chris Hardwick. And we only had 5 minutes between movies. Whereas for the marathon I went to at the same place before that, we had half hour to an hour between movies, so you can stretch your legs. But because we were running late, we only had 5-minute breaks between like the first 4 or 5 movies, and they didn't even have like little fun stuff for us to like little handouts. God, the best was at 3 in the morning. When I went to the marathon by myself, they gave us a little toiletry bag with like toothbrush and deodorant and whatnot. It's like they knew what we needed at the right time.
They're gonna need like a fucking power wash to get the stink off of that room.
This is CDC rolls up.
Hoses. Yeah. Oh man.
Just bleach the whole place.
Dude, so have you heard about like the news about the black hole stuff that we're gonna be getting?
I have not.
So apparently there's gonna be a pretty big announcement in the next few days regarding black holes. And I don't know if this is confirmed or not, or if it's just the rumor, but supposedly we're going to be getting the very first picture that's ever been taken of what a black hole actually looks like.
I can send you a picture of a black hole right now if you like. Dan, get artistic. Get in deep. So maybe we can cover that next week on, if something's released, we can cover that next week on the show.
Yeah, hopefully something good. And I know there's also some weird shit happening on Mars like right now too. Have you heard about any of that?
I have not.
So I know like one of the things is like there's some gases that are being like picked up from there that only like happen like when like organic matter is like decaying.
Really?
So that's kind of like like, well, what the hell is that? And then there's also some pictures that we're getting back of stuff that looks like mushrooms and like algae and like fungus and shit like that. So that's kind of interesting. Like the scientific community is kind of like split in half on that one, because they're like, oh, we don't know for sure that that's what that is. It could just be, the pictures like that were, and it could just be rocks or whatever. But I was looking at the pictures earlier, and it's this straight up look like spores. Like those look like mushrooms. Like, which if that's what that is, that's very, very interesting.
Speaking of mushrooms,
yeah.
Dan and I were playing Mario Kart.
Which one?
64, the only good one.
You didn't like the Super Nintendo one?
The Super Nintendo's great, but the Mario Kart 64 is the superior of all the Mario Karts. Dan, you're the Mario Kart guy.
Like the.
I liked.
I really like the DS version.
Which one?
The original DS version. I like that one a lot.
Wasn't that based off 64 though?
I don't remember.
Huh.
The one for Wii U is also, well, actually they remade it also. It's on the Switch now, but the Mario Kart 8 is also really, really good.
But the battle mode sucks.
The battle mode does suck.
64
yes,
had the best battle mode ever, and then they got lazy. So, anyways, before we hop in, a word from our sponsor.
Yes, Infinite CBD. So, I am feeling a little bit beat up right now. All the jiu-jitsu, obviously.
That Mantis lock.
Yeah, right.
Mantis guard shit.
So, I did just I took one of the the gummies, the asteroid gummies. By the way, have you tried those yet?
I have.
What did you think?
Taste awful, but they work great. I'm not going to lie to reviewers. They don't. The taste is something to behold. However, they work great.
I don't mind the taste, but yeah, I like those a lot. I actually just recently really tried for the first time the AM pills. So I'd been using the PM pills lately, but I tried the AM version, which is essentially like a caffeine pill that you take in the morning.
Yeah.
It has I think the same amount of caffeine as a cup of coffee, but yeah, that thing was pretty awesome. It kept me alert, all that stuff. Got me a little boost in the morning.
That's
so good. That stuff also highly recommend. And obviously the isolate drops are great. I'm drinking some tea right now that I threw some of that in.
Nice. How many drops did you put in?
I'll typically just put like one big dropper.
One big drop?
Full of it.
Nice.
Yeah.
So.
But yeah, guys, if you want to check out any of their products, it's infinitecbd.com, and our coupon code is Tyde10, TYDE10, and that'll get you 10% off.
Yes, sir. So, we're going to change gears a little bit today, because I know we like to dive into conspiracy and Antarctica Nazis
All
and
the wild shit.
Mars gases and shit, but we do so much more than that. We're also explorers. And
Yep.
I might have had some gas from Mars being detected right now.
Damn it. Fuck you.
So, yeah, our good friend Dan actually grew up next to one of the wildest amusement parks in the United States.
Yes, this theme park is legendary for the lack of regulation, deaths and injuries, and this is like the type of place that I would create if I grew up. If I was a middle-aged dude with money in the 80s, like this would be the theme park that I would create.
Yeah, so check this out. I'm reading this actually off of their Wikipedia article. The place is called Action Park. So it says, Action Park's popularity went hand in hand with the reputation for poorly designed rides, undertrained, underage staff, intoxicated guests and staff, and a consequently poor safety record. At least 6 people are known to have died as a result of mishaps on the rides at the park, and it was given nicknames such as Traction Park, Accident Park, and Class Action Park. Little effort.
Park. That's my favorite right there.
Little effort was made by state regulators despite a history of repeat violations. In its later years, personal injury lawsuits led to the closure of more and more rides, and eventually the entire park in 1996.
Wow, it lasted that long.
Yeah.
So, Dan, where did you grow up? New York, right?
I grew up in New York, yeah, Rockland County, New York, which is it's basically right on the border of New York and New Jersey. So I could even drive over the border if I wanted to get cheap gas. So it was very, very close.
And
nice.
How far were you from Action Park?
Action Park was a little bit of a drive. So actually, it's funny. I live in Orange County, California now, but actually originally I was in Orange County, New York, which is a little bit further. So I'm trying to remember what the drive was. I think it was about an hour drive though.
Okay, but so like from driving from here to here to LA,
something like that. Yeah.
Okay. Well, actually, no. LA is not geographically far. It's just shitty traffic.
Yeah.
Not from here to San Diego far. Like maybe a little closer. Okay.
Something like that.
Okay.
Yep.
So, Dan, how many times have you been to Action Park?
I went in the early 90s. So I think if I were to estimate, probably between 4 and 5 times.
4 or 5 times. And growing up in New York, relatively close to this place, were there any local rumors as a kid growing up? I mean, schoolyard talk about Action Park?
So here's the thing. this whole thing of basically its reputation didn't really hit me until later on. Like I kind of saw it as normal. That was the water park that was just around there, and it didn't really hit me about the lack of safety regulations until I moved it to California. I'm like, oh, okay, they actually don't let you just like have like 3 people go down a slide at once. That's not a normal thing.
Send more kids.
The lifeguards are definitely a lot more stricter here, and they're.
So one of the things that I was reading about this place is that alcohol was like readily available, and that a lot of people were just like drunk all the time, and that doctors said that a lot of people that were getting injured and that they were treating were pretty frequently intoxicated. Is that something that you remember from being there?
That's
like
probably
drunk
true,
people,
but
or were you too young?
I was probably too young. It's probably true. I'm not going to argue with it, but I think I probably went between like 1990 and 95, so I was between 8 and 13 years old.
Okay.
So
so definitely too young to pick up on that.
So, what do you remember about Action Park? Let's see Action Park through the lens of the 9, 10, 13-year-old kid.
It was a lot of fun. I mean, I know there are a lot of stories about people getting hurt, but I never really got seriously hurt.
Seriously hurt, which means that there's an injury.
Most of the slides are kind of made out of concrete, and they kind of had this one area where it's kind of in between slides. You can look. There's one called the Colorado River Ride, which is like a giant raft ride, which always seemed like the thing was going to flip over, and somehow we didn't miraculously. But after you get the ride, there's like another kind of transition part with a bunch of pools, and it's all made out of concrete. And I remember actually splitting my knee open once on that. Not bad enough where I needed stitches, but it was definitely bleeding.
So, give us the rundown, because from what I've researched, they had the go-karts that the employees would modify to go a lot faster than they should have been going. Yeah,
there was like a tennis ball trick, apparently. You could do something with the regulator and the tennis ball. I'm not exactly sure they did that, but apparently that would make it go faster.
Like, dangerously fast. You had some sort of like a motorboat ride?
Yeah, there was one you could actually shoot. I can't remember what you shot, but I guess it was almost like tank motorboats where you could shoot stuff at each other.
Nice. Again, I designed this park in a former life.
Yeah.
And then you had
like roller coaster.
And one of the legendary rides, the downhill, almost like not a toboggan, but like a bobsled.
That was the
Alpine
slide, exactly.
The Alpine slide. Walk us through the Alpine slide.
So the Alpine slide is basically another surprise, also made out of concrete, where it's almost kind of like a bobsled, but you kind of had control of the speed, so you could push the lever forward and you would go faster. And if you pulled it all the way back, you would brake. The problem with giving you full control is that if somebody slowed down in front of you, you could literally smash right into them. And which I did on a few occasions. Fortunately, never got hurt, but I was a kid and I wanted to go fast, and I didn't. Yeah. Someone being in front of me wasn't going to slow me down.
And one of the deaths associated with Action Park is somebody, I guess, went a little too fast on one of the turns and ended up flying off the track and hitting their head on a rock.
Yeah. Yep.
What was it, you, Dan, that told me that some guy was being an asshole and while you were going too slow and was giving you a bunch of shit, like some older guy, and then he just kind of picked up his bobsled and gave you shit and then put his bobsled in front of you? And
it's an interesting story, but I don't think that was me, though. No,
God,
somebody else.
I saw that somewhere. You had the Tarzan swing, which again also has a death associated to it. From what I've researched, apparently the Tarzan swing, for starters, a lot of ladies apparently flashed their boobies before they made the jump, which is fantastic. But the pool that they landed in was like freezing cold spring water, so just the differential
50 to 60 degrees, yeah.
Yeah.
Fahrenheit.
Apparently it would send people into shock. Which is hilarious. Sounds awful, but Who does that? Like, I'm a pussy when it comes to cold water. Like anything under 80, and I'm like having to like wade in like an old lady. But walk us through that.
So there's one area of the park that's it's a little bit kind of separate from the rest of it in terms of the pool that you end up in. There's one part I think it's called Cannonball Falls or Cannonball. I can't remember exactly what the name of it. Cannonball something. And there's also the Tarzan swing. The Cannonball one is basically a slide where at the end there's literally like you go through the slide and there's literally a 10-foot drop and then you just fall into the water. The other one is the Tarzan swing where you start up on this high up and you swing on the rope and you fall in the water. And yeah, the water was freezing cold. I actually do remember that distinctly. That being that part of the park was way colder than anything else. And it was always fun watching people.
Did you fall into it, or was it just like, how would you come in contact with the water?
Well, depending on the ride. So if you were on the Cannonball one, you just fall out of a slide, you just fell directly into the water. But on the Tarzan swing, you would swing and basically try to make it to the end. And it was funny watching people because some people didn't have the upper arm strength to make it all the way through, so they would fall at the top, which you would fall a pretty decent amount of way. So you started up, I can't remember exactly how high you started, but it was pretty high up.
Okay.
So you would just kind of fall straight down. But either way, though, even if you made it to the end, you didn't belly flop or anything, you still had to deal with that freezing cold water.
So, why would people go on that?
It was fun as shit. I mean, it was. I mean, you knew the water was coming, but just the adrenaline rush of swinging and jumping up in the air, and some people would do flips and crazy stuff.
How deep was the water?
Pretty deep, but I'd say at least 15 feet.
Wow.
Yeah, it was deep.
Okay.
So
enough to where you couldn't touch the bottom without swimming down?
No, I never actually hit the bottom.
Alright.
And then we had the River Rapid ride, which apparently has another death associated with it when somebody, or was that the boats, where somebody fell into the water and the kayak, yes, where they came in contact with like a loose cable, like power cable. And just so do you remember that the kayaking?
I honestly don't remember that now.
Didn't do the kayaking?
I don't think I ever did the kayaking now.
How big was this place?
It was pretty big. I mean, there was different areas. I mean, you had the main water park, and then you kind of had a separate alpine slide area. Then you had like Motor World, which had the go karts and the boats and all that. So it was a pretty big side. And it also doubled as a ski resort in the winter.
Right.
So you even had you would actually take a ski chairlift up when you went down the alpine slide.
Really?
Yep.
Huh. So the River Rapid ride. I'm not sure. I don't remember if anybody died on this one, but apparently it had some really low ceilings when it came to like caves and whatnot. That was notorious for knocking people's heads. Can you imagine that? Just on a ride, you're on a rapid, like turbulent ride, and you just get your head knocked in by a fucking rock.
There was something. I was on over a raft. I was a kayak, but there was one I know where you kind of went through a cave at the end, and I could definitely see people getting hurt on that, but it wasn't a kayak, so maybe that was something different.
So
I don't know.
maybe that was the rapid ride.
Possibly, yeah.
Yeah.
I did go on the Colorado River ride, which went through the caves and up the hill and all that. And,
yeah.
Yeah.
So in those caves, apparently there was really low head ceiling, if that's accurate, if you remember.
Yeah, it sounds, yeah.
And to some people who are tall, and depending on the raft and whatnot, people would hit their heads inside these caves all the time. That's awful. What else was there? There was a...
The tidal pool.
Yeah, so tell us about the tidal pool, Dan.
So the tidal pool is actually pretty similar to, like, I've seen some ones here. It's just that they don't there's a lot more regulations in other places. At Action Park, it basically just, the pool it ran all the time, like those waves. And they were a lot bigger, too. They were the much, much bigger waves. I mean, you could get it was definitely a good idea to get, like, like an inner tube or something, just so you weren't constantly going through the waves, because there was a lot of people that would, I guess a lot of, like, inner city school kids, though, they couldn't swim, and they would go in there, and apparently that's where the most deaths happened.
Yeah, it looks like 3 that I can see.
So, normally with the wave pools, you'll get, like, the like a foghorn or the bell, and that means okay, the waves are coming. And if normally the wade pools, I know when I went to Raging Waters last summer, I think the wade pool maxed out at like 8 or 9 feet deep. But then you have the swells, so it's in constant fluctuation. But when you're there at a certain point, like the swells maybe 2 or 3 feet. But if you're in deep water, then it seems a lot bigger than it really is. But Action Park, give us an estimate here. Like, how deep was the water? Like, how big was it? How big were the swells? I heard it was just merciless.
Were we talking about specifically the tidal wave pool?
Yeah, the tidal wave pool.
It got pretty deep at the end. Yeah, it got somewhere between 8 and 10 feet. But I mean, yeah, no matter what. I mean, either way, it's above your head. So I mean, if you're not able to swim or hold on to something,
yeah,
you're gonna. I mean, I never saw anybody drown in it, but I have seen a few times. I have seen a couple times where lifeguards would jump in and pull people out. That was a pretty common occurrence.
Jesus.
Did it seem like it would have been easy for people to have been drunk in that pool?
Oh yeah, definitely, yeah. I'm pretty sure. Actually, do remember people with coolers. So yeah, I guess it just didn't pick up on as much as a kid, but now it kind of makes sense.
Right.
So there's one more attraction, an infamous attraction, very very bold idea in the water park industry, the water slide with the motherfucking loop. Dan, tell us about your experience with the loop.
So that's going to be the most infamous. I've never seen this elsewhere. I don't think it exists anywhere, and it probably shouldn't exist anywhere. But it's literally a water slide. It's a complete, like, in the dark tube, and you go down it, and you go through a loop at the end. I never went on it myself. I only saw it. Apparently it's only been running a few times. I could have sworn I've actually seen it running. So I remember seeing people spray people with a hose in order to get them enough lubrication to get through the thing. Because apparently people would get stuck, they wouldn't make it way through, or they would go through get to the part of the loop and they wouldn't have enough force. Yeah, they'd face plant, they'd break their nose or whatever. But it was not a well-designed ride by any stretch of the imagination.
So this ride, ambitious as it is, or as it was, they had issues with people getting stuck at the peak of this loop. So much so to where they actually had to turn around and install a hatch. Just to... No. Again, apparently this ride was notorious for people getting broken noses and like fucking up their knees. And I think it was only open for like a couple months before they just deemed it just a dismal failure. But
yeah, I don't think how it got past the blueprint stage.
Right. So what they did have to do to help deal with people getting stuck up at the top, in addition to creating this safety hatch, was they did take a hose and just kind of hose people down as they were making the plunge. So that kind of lines up with Dan's story. So Dan was actually there while this slide was in operation. Now, apparently Action Park was so notorious for injury that they had to recruit their own fleet of ambulance to take people to the hospital. Like daily, there were lacerations, sprains, breaks. Probably not breaks daily, but at least a break weekly. Where just there was always shit going on. Dan, at any point as a kid, did any of the schoolyard kids start talking about this place and just its infamy? This is before internet, so everything was like urban legend back then.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember people talking about it, but it was I guess it was just normal to us because that was the only water park in the area. So I don't really know of any ridiculous stories or anything. It was just kind of normal to us. Yeah, that was it. That was our water park.
It's weird. What is your what was your go-to ride? Because you said you've been there about 4 or 5 times. Like, what was the thing that you had to go to? Like, first thing you walked through the gate. Where did Dan go?
Despite the freezing cold water, I actually really liked the cannonball drop. It was just fun, just because you'd get a bunch of speed up and then you'd fly out the end. The Colorado River ride was also a lot of fun too. Fortunately, I never got hurt in that one. There's also one which, in retrospect, also seems incredibly dangerous, where you sit in this plastic kind of toboggan and you go down these metal rollers.
Oh, the metal rollers!
And I could definitely see, you put your hand out, you're going to get caught, you're going to lose a finger or something. I'm sure, I don't know what the statistics are on that ride, but I'm sure people must have gotten hurt on that one. But it was a fun ride as long as you didn't get hurt on it.
So, for our younger listeners, when we were kids, we had things made out of metal. Our jungle gyms were made out of metal. And during peak hours of the summer, you'd go to put your ass on one of these really hot metal slides, and you'd lose like the first layer of skin on your way down. It was just, it would burn the shit out of you.
Yeah.
That's before they upgraded to wood, where you constantly getting splinters.
Yeah.
God, the kids these days don't know how good they have it.
There's also one other one too. It's literally just the cliff jump. The ride is here, kid, jump off this fucking cliff. That's the ride. There's a 15-footer and a 25-footer. The water is plenty deep, so I mean, as long as you don't belly flop or anything like that, you're gonna be fine. But there was almost no regulation in terms of the people below, because the pool also connected to just regular pool. So people who weren't paying attention would go over there. I never saw anybody get landed on, but it was definitely possible. I mean, nobody really kind of kept the people out of that area. So.
God, that's crazy. So, just how bad was the water? Like, I'm so curious about that. Like, I remember a few years ago, we were in the hot tub with our girlfriends, and it was really cold. And it was at night, and we both dared each other to jump in the pool water.
Oh, that was warm compared to. Oh, yeah.
Oh, really?
No, yeah, that wasn't bad at all. That was probably that water was probably maybe in the 70s or something, the 60s. That wasn't that bad.
That was goddamn freezing.
That was the water in the Tarzan swing in Dragonfall. It's on a whole other level of just freezing. I mean, you get in and it's just. You ride the adrenaline, you get the fuck out as soon as humanly possible. There's no thought process. It's just get out. That's it.
Now, did you see any of the girls flash their titties before making the jump?
So apparently that was a common occurrence. Also, people would also apparently would moon a lot too before they went on it. I don't recall any of that happening when I was there, but I know that was a common occurrence.
Can you imagine just being like 10-year-old Dan seeing his first pair of boobs just on the Tarzan swing at Action Park? Fortunately, it never happened. So, this park closed in '96, and I think it's open again under a different name, or maybe it's still Action Park, but now with regulation.
So they reopened.
Yeah, it sounds like they opened a few different versions.
Yeah, there was Mountain Creek, I think, was one of them, or Mountain Valley, or Verdon Valley. I can't remember exactly what it was. And then they tried to rebrand it again as Action Points. I actually haven't been to the New York area in a while, so I couldn't tell you what it is now. But I know they did try to recreate it.
So, when I was a kid. And looking back at really dangerous, stupid shit. And I thought that I was dreaming this. Like, nobody believed me when I would tell people about this place. And Adrian, I think I've told you. I think I've told Dan. When I was in like first or second grade, I'd go to like after school program, like summer camp and whatnot. And I remember going to what I would call Mud Park. And it was just mud. You just show up. They had like mud rafting. They had a mud tug of war, like a mud obstacle course, and then they had this slope with just like a blue fucking like tarp on it, that they would hose down, and that was like our mudslide. And I never got to go on the mudslide ever because people would always break their fucking arm on this mudslide. Now, I know you're thinking, okay, it's a cool mud park, but there's a second half of this park that is the weirdest fucking part of it, of anything. There was a bunch of wood, just like lumber and shit, and a bunch of like hand tools, like hammers, saws, and nails and shit. And kids could build their own like tree houses, like out of wood and shit.
Okay.
So, not only are you like breaking your arm on some downhill like mud slope, but then you can turn around and get a bunch of plywood and just make your own Ewok village. Just unregulated. I don't remember people like the staffing. I guess this is our version of action park. Adrian, you grew up in the area. Did you ever do anything like that?
No.
Does this sound familiar?
No, I definitely don't remember this place. Where was it again?
So, it's weird. I would tell people, nobody would believe me. Until I was with my ex-girlfriend at her dad's house, and he mentioned something very similar to Mud Park, because I just called it Mud Park. And I had that light turn on. It's like, oh my god, this place is real. I didn't just dream this up in some childhood fantasy. It's called, for us, it's called Adventure Playground.
Okay.
And there's two of them. So there's one in Irvine, and there's one in Huntington Beach. And the one in Huntington Beach is the one that I went to. And it's in, yeah, it's just Huntington Beach. But God, I went there, I finally found it as an adult, and it's amazing how small the place is now, like, compared to when I was a kid, because the place seemed huge as a kid. But God, you would... So here's what's safe. So, you'd walk up to this place, and if you weren't wearing the proper type of shoes, you had to get, like, a loaner pair of shoes. So you just had to wear just whatever shoes were just lined up on a wall. And the changing areas were outdoors, but they were in, like, these round, sealed, just open areas. And they weren't exactly private. It's just... It was almost like a weird corral. Just high walls, just a big circle, no roof or anything. It was just a round corral that you go and change in. Not a whole lot of privacy. I mean, you can look through, like, the door and see fucking naked people. It was weird. It was fucking weird. But I remember the mud rafting. So essentially you got to Tom Sawyer this shit. And just a flat piece of wood, and they give you the stick so you can do the thing, and then one of the counselors blew the fucking whistle, and we'd all have to jump off the rafts into sludge water and wade back to shore. This wasn't chlorinated, it was just mud water, and I remember as a kid, I'd be like, oh, I'm going to go underwater, and I'd be swimming around in mud water, not chlorinated, and there were a couple times where I did go pee-pees in the mud water. And I know I wasn't the only kid going pee-pees in the mud water. So.
Oh, man.
Right.
Yeah, I think the closest experience I ever had to a crazy park type thing was, so I think it's called Boomers now, I think, and before that I believe it was called Palace Park. Do you remember that? It's in, like, Irvine. It's like off the 5 freeway.
Yeah, so that one's pretty new, but the one in is it Westminster off the 405? That's the one that I grew up going to.
Okay.
So when I was a kid, my dad would take me to all these family fun centers, and he really wanted to take me to ones that had like the battle tanks where you can shoot like tennis balls at people, but we never got to go to one. But I grew up at places like that. Dan, anything like that when you were a kid? Or like family fun centers?
No, but they did. I mean, at Action Park, they did have the one where the boats where you can kind of shoot those balls. I can't remember what it was at each other. And
They weren't tennis balls, were they? Or
I can't remember what it was. It's been a long time. I just remember you could shoot something at somebody.
I want to know like the logistics of that ride. What was the retrieval system for picking up the ammo if it's all just floating at the?
Well, in this, and you can see this too in the documentary if you watch it on YouTube, but apparently this was the worst place to work at if you're an employee there, because everybody would just shoot the person who went to go pick up the balls. It's kind of like
It's like a ball guy
it's
at the
kind of
golf
like the guy at
course.
the golf course where everybody tries to hit the guy pick up the balls, but that guy is at least in a cage. This person wasn't. They just ran out there and everybody would just try to shoot that person, and it was very intentional.
That poor stone teenager.
Probably drunk too.
Right.
But so when I went to that place, I remember there was this a fountain, and like they had the boats that you could drive around in the little pool, right?
Right.
And I think they had water cannons on them, so you could shoot your friends with the water.
Right.
So you were gonna get one. I think I actually lost control of mine, and I ended up drifting towards the middle where the big water spout was, and I just ended up underneath it, just getting drenched by the fountain.
You know what? I took Sakura there years ago. God, years and years and years ago, and I remember that goddamn fountain, and somehow I ended up in that fountain. Just getting drenched. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that I ended up in like the commercial for it. Like that clip of me getting drenched by that thing.
Nice. So, back to Action Point or Action Park, Action Point. Same difference.
Action Park.
Action Park.
So there's actually a movie called Action Point. I do not recommend it. It wasn't very good.
That's the Johnny Knoxville.
Yeah. I mean, the Jackass guys have done some funny stuff, but they really missed the mark on this movie. It wasn't very good, unfortunately.
There is a really good documentary on YouTube that just goes bullet point from start to finish, the rise and fall of Action Park. I've seen a couple of videos where people are being interviewed, and then turns out we have somebody here who has been there and experienced Action Park for themselves. And there's some gases escaping Mars right now.
Oh, God, dude, what the fuck is wrong with you?
That probably came up on the feed. So
Yeah, that was definitely very loud.
we can edit that part out. We're not going to edit that part out. That's in there forever. God, it's very pungent. So, what else is there with Action Park? So, unfortunately, you never got to see. Well, I say unfortunately, you never seen any major injuries or whatnot when you went there.
No, I don't think I ever really saw anybody got.
Never heard the
really
sirens
hurt.
wailing of.
No, I mean I would go there. Yeah, like I went there but it was once a year in the summer. I went with my dad and my brother. None of us ever really got hurt. I mean, I did see people get pulled out of the wave pool. Like I said, that was probably the closest I've ever seen anybody get really hurt. But I never saw any real major injuries or anything like that.
So apparently, I think the wave pool, the waves came from multiple directions, almost creating like a perfect storm of just like really choppy, shitty.
Yes. Yeah, they hit you from every side. They were pretty big too. I mean, I can't remember exactly how big they were, but they were definitely much bigger waves than I've seen in any other wave pool.
So with modern wave pools, you have the waves coming from one direction. Apparently, the wave pool at Action Park came from multiple angles.
Yep.
So just choppy, like hurricane-style waves. Just everybody just trying to fight the current. Jesus.
Yeah, basically you grab your air tube and hold on for dear life, and that's basically how it goes.
Oh, man. We never had that at Wild Rivers.
No.
So, we grew up with Wild Rivers,
Yeah.
and there's rumors of it coming back eventually. They were supposed to break ground and be open this year, but it's not happening because nothing's been broken ground yet. But apparently the city of Irvine is like down for it because that was a big money maker for them.
Suppose.
Yeah,
Actually, I just heard
definitely.
it's gonna be next year.
Really?
Yeah.
They haven't broken ground yet. Like,
Oh, okay.
So if you're on the freeway, you see the big balloon. There's that big grassy patch that's right next to the balloon. There's like a street, and there's this big grassy patch. It's like a few acres. That's apparently where it's going to be.
Yeah, in that Great Park area.
Yeah, Great
yeah,
Park.
yeah.
We lost Verizon. Apparently, Dan went to the new amphitheater, which isn't Verizon.
5 Point.
5 Point, not Verizon. But at Wild Rivers, everything was regulated. I did actually get hurt on the wave pool. I was pushed into the wall, and I scraped my like the top of my right hand. Wasn't very bad. I mean, could have been a lot worse. There's also the time my dad and I went down the Congo River Rapids, and he had his wallet on him for some reason, and we were spit out. A bunch of money was floating in the pool. So my dad was trying to collect all the money.
All wet and shit.
All wet, yep.
Oh.
Super soggy.
I remember being a little kid and just being like terrified of going on like the abyss and like some of those like really high ones until I finally got a little bit older and got brave enough to try it and then just loved it.
Did you ever go to Wild Rivers, Dan?
I did go once.
Okay.
Actually, incidentally, I think I went on it when I first actually moved to California. And after going to Action Park, I wasn't impressed, so I didn't go back.
So, right. So our star attraction was the Congo River Rapids, and it was just this big. It was either a 1-seater or 2-seater. This big, just sculpted mountain, and you had 2 different paths that you can go through. And it was the best ride. And one of the paths had like these 2 very just drops. Like you would go and just drop, then you go again and drop. And I couple times I got launched out of the raft, but certainly didn't have any head injuries or anything like Action Park. Wild Rivers did have the best lazy river though. That was the star attraction, was the lazy river. Best memory of Action Park, go.
It's tough to say my best memory, but it's definitely the best water park I've ever been to. I mean, despite its bad reputation, I've always had a good time there. The rides are fun. They're dangerous as hell, but yeah, I always had a great time when I went there.
These millennials don't know what it's like to go to a theme park with no regulations. All safe and nurtured. See,
I mean, there was only out of all the crazy rides there was only one where I just looked at it. I was just like, nope. Was the one with the loop? Everything else seemed reasonable, but the loop one was that was out there.
So, in hindsight, would you have gone on it?
Knowing what I know now that I know a lot more about it, because I didn't really know much about it. I just looked at it as a kid. It just looked crazy. But like now that I know all the injuries and all the things that have happened, would I go on it now? No, I still wouldn't go on it. Hell no.
Not even just like if you were to get a T-shirt at the end, like I survived the loop.
Can I wear a football helmet? Maybe, I don't know. Might help.
So I did some research, and apparently, like the son of the owner. They're really hell-bent on getting this fucking slide or some version of this looping slide up and running. And I saw a TV show a few years ago where they were trying to remake it, but making it, like, feasible now. So instead of just going down a slide, you're in like, this enclosed, like, pod type deal. And they would launch you down in this pod.
Actually, I think I did hear something like that, yeah.
I'm not sure what...
That I might do. That seems like it's... you're a lot less likely to get hurt because like you're actually gonna like a pod where you're not gonna be moving around. It's actually just kind of straight through.
You're like in a weird roll cage, but
so that I would possibly do.
So, give us an idea how tall was this looping ride? I mean, as a kid, you just probably looked up at it and said, "Fuck no."
So the loop itself wasn't that big, but the kind of
the
drop down to was a long way. I wasn't really afraid of that. I mean, if it was just a drop, I would have been fine with it. I wasn't really afraid of the speed or the heights or anything. It was just like, okay, how about what happens if I don't make it through this loop? Or it just didn't look right. So.
Oh man. So, close it out, Dan. Give us your final summary of the legendary action park.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, it was a great childhood memory. That's one of those things I didn't really realize about how crazy it was really until later on when I started reading articles about it. I'm like, oh, Action Park, I remember that. And yeah, and then just reading about all the different class action lawsuits and all the injuries and deaths. I'm like, wow, I had no idea that much happened. I mean, I sort of realized that it wasn't the safest place when I saw other water parks. But it was very normalized to me at the time. But shit, you only live once. It was fun. I don't regret going at all. It was a good time.
So down in the description, we will link a picture of this looping monstrosity. I'm showing Dan the picture that you sent me, Adrian.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're right. The loop isn't that big, but it is a very... It's not as steep as I would think. It's almost like a 45-degree angle, but just slide all the way down, and then you get that loop. But damn, that's who attempts that? So I think the newer version that they were working on, it was much steeper and a lot higher. And again, you're in the roll cage, and I think the loop might have actually been a little bit bigger too. Because I don't know, man. I know physics, and that just doesn't seem like... The physics just aren't working for me.
Nope. I mean, apparently, I guess the owner would pay like some of the employees $100 to go down there, and one kid fucked up he broke his nose. He got his $100, but yeah, at least they didn't even cover the medical bills, so it wasn't worth it for him.
Actually, that's a good thing that you brought up. I completely forgot about that. Nobody wanted to go down this thing, and the owner was having to pay his own employees to go down it, and yes, there were injuries, but hey, $100 back in the 80s, 90s.
Yeah, it went a lot further.
Yeah, especially if you're a teenager.
Yep.
$100, $100. Deal with a bloody nose for a little while. Puts Bactine on it. Oh man. Yeah, we
There's a little bit better picture.
Yep.
Gives you a little bit more scale.
Alright. Standing by. Like, how hot did it get?
How hot?
Yeah, like how hot, just like weather-wise, because I know it's like North Jersey.
It gets pretty hot. I mean, it gets very humid too. That's the thing that kills you is the humidity.
Right.
So it was.
Jersey is a swamp.
Yep.
North swamp. I'm in the man cave, so it's taking a little bit longer to get pictures. Anyway, so we will link a description down in the description, the YouTube documentary and a couple pictures of this looping monstrosity. It's what a place. I'd love to. If it's not there, I'd love to crawl around in it someday. Like see the remains. But you said it's still like a functioning ski resort, though.
I'm pretty sure the ski resort still exists, yes. It was actually a pretty good ski resort. Vernon Valley. It's, I think it was actually 2 resorts. I think it was like one side of the mountain was the other one. But I do remember skiing there when I got older, too. And that was, yeah, good place to ski.
Nice. So, speaking of water parks, because it's spring and the weather's still shitty, but it's going to be warming up. On this channel, I do have a really long video of when I did an exploration of Rockahula. and that's off the 15 going towards Vegas. Probably about 30 minutes from Barstow. Adrian, you went there with me one time with Yvette.
Yep.
And you were getting some weird vibes from the place, but that's one of my favorite places to go to. I should probably take Dan. Want to go crawl around an abandoned water park?
Cool.
It's actually a pretty cool place.
Is that the one that's on the way to Vegas?
Yes.
That's a long-ass drive. I'd rather just go to Vegas.
Well, yeah, on the way to Vegas.
On the way to Vegas? Maybe, yeah.
Speaking of abandoned water parks, I just found this out. Apparently there's another abandoned water park in San Diego. This one is in Indian country. I don't know what the name of it was, but it's there, and I pulled it up on my maps, and it's still there. A couple slides are intact. It looks like the wave pool is still there. Adrian, I sent you the information on it.
Yep.
When I get some time, I got my phone replaced, finally. So I can take...
Oh, nice.
Yeah, just... It was a process, but I have it, so I need to take it to Apple tomorrow before I go into work and get everything transferred over. My new phone is pink. Oh. I jokingly told them that I'd take the pink phone, and I guess they took it literally. But that will hopefully be in the horizon, is checking out this new water park. Dan, would you like to come? Come with me on an adventure, Dan.
Maybe if we were actually going to Vegas itself, but I don't...
No, this one's in San Diego.
Oh, no, this one's...
This is in Indian country, so... What was I telling Adrian?
I don't know. We'll talk about some other time. Maybe.
Talking to Adrian, like, before the white man, the lazy river run flowed majestically. Anyway, stay tuned. Also, folks, we do have a Patreon now, so if you'd like to help fund some of our adventures, it's always appreciated. Adrian and I have a lot of ideas that we would like to hopefully one day do, right?
Yeah.
Ran out of
Area
words on
51,
that.
the Shining Hotel in Estes Park, the Stanley Hotel.
Yep.
Would be very cool. Skinwalker Ranch, which we're gonna have to do an episode on at some point.
Would love to do Skinwalker Ranch. Actually, Yvette and I were watching a thing last night regarding Skinwalker Ranch, and somebody actually caught this creature. It was just this completely black-looking figure, just jet black, and it was up in the rocks, and it was laying down weird. Like, I can't describe. Like, if you were to just have this big figure, just completely jet black, like laying, almost like Princess Leia style in the rocks, and you could see its arms and everything, just kind of like an elongated body, and then you see this thing within a couple frames get up and start walking on all fours and almost run off.
Ugh,
and
that's creepy.
As it's running off, it looks like it shapeshifts. Like, no joke. Like, it goes from being humanoid to almost running off like a dog. And you can actually see, like, texture of fur as it's running off. Have you seen that video,
Wow.
Adrian?
No, I'm gonna have to look it up.
Yeah, we're going to look that one up.
Where'd you find it? YouTube?
So I found it. It was actually on... Yvette and I watch a lot of Travel Channel stuff with all the ghost stuff.
Okay.
This new show is called, like, Paranormal Caught on Camera. It's just one of those things. And they talk about Skinwalker Ranch.
Nice.
And, I mean, clearly you can't go onto the property. Adrian and I will find a way onto that property. But even just, like, the surrounding areas are just subject to weird shit. But that would be a fantastic place to go to.
Definitely. Alright, guys, so I think that's going to do it for us tonight.
Yep.
It's getting pretty late over here. Hope you guys enjoyed it. We changed things up a bit today, but I think it was a fun episode.
Dan's our first guest.
I definitely had fun.
Yeah, I mean...
Have the honor of being the first guest?
Dan is the first guest. He popped the show's cherry. He's the first guest. No, it's just changing gears a little bit because we're also explorers, and, you know, we talk about urban legends and shit.
Yeah.
Action Park has a lot of urban legend behind it, but there's a lot of actual truth behind these legends.
Yeah. A lot of blood spilled.
A lot of blood spilled, and Dan fucked up his knee. Which knee was it, Dan?
I think it was my right. It was a long time ago. I think it might have been my right knee though.
Oh, maybe it was the deep-seated trauma of noticing all the drunk people drowning in the background, unsuspectingly as you're a little kid.
He's just
Blood-filled, shark-infested water.
Like I'm picturing like Dewey from Malcolm in the Middle, just like walking around, like seeing all this destruction, like, not paying attention. Oh man.
Whatever happened to that kid?
Hopefully he just retired with all his money.
Well, that Malcolm in the Middle money.
Yeah.
So, anyways,
Syndication, dude.
so next week, you know what? Let's do the Skinwalker episode next week.
I don't know. I might need more time to do some research because I actually want to read their book before I do that, so I can come up with a lot of details on it.
Okay. You know what? Because you picked the past few things. I'll make it easy. I'll come up with something, and something that both of us probably both know mutually.
All right.
And we can build up towards the Skinwalker episode.
Yeah,
That'd
definitely.
be great. So, anyways, that I think we're good here. So, I'm Steve.
I'm Adrian.
And thanks for listening to the Tyde Podcast. Again, please like, comment, and subscribe. Tell us how awful we're doing. If you like what we're doing, give us money on our Patreon. Please, ask nicely. We want to bring you some higher quality adventures. Actually, next week we can talk divot boxes. Because they're being sold on eBay. And I kind of want to buy one.
There you go.
Convince me. Make your best argument as to why I should or shouldn't buy a possibly demon or spirit possessed box for $30 with free shipping. Worst case scenario, just have a box.
Yeah. There you go.
There we go. All right, guys. Thanks for watching.
All right, later, guys.